All right, ladies and gentlemen, this is Jonathan St. James, and I'm with my wonderful crew of colleagues. I have Dawn, Jim, and Donnie St. James.
Hello, good afternoon.
Hello, hello.
Hello.
So, unfortunately, Jim pressured me to play his theme music, so I'm going to play it real quick.
Oh, oh, oh. It's full. I can't stand them. I can't stand them.
Too bad.
Yes, yes.
Thanks.
All right, King Jim. All right. So since I'm playing music from the original Coming to America, I wanted to have a quick conversation about that. Well, first and foremost, how's everyone doing today?
Good.
Good, thank you. Very good.
Yeah,
How are
fine.
you?
Donnie, good?
Yeah, I'm fine. What
Okay.
about you? As
All
long
right.
as
I'm doing okay. So, of course, last week I wanted to talk about something to complain about, and I couldn't think of anything. But today I got plenty to complain about. So, hold on a second. Hello, hello. Okay. I'm hearing an echo in my headphones, so I was trying to figure out where the source is to that, but I can't figure it out. Anyway, so talking about Coming to America, I talked briefly to my co-host before the show started, but I wanted to bring this up on the air. Vanessa Bell Calloway, I think that's her name. I should just Google that real fast. So anyway, there was a video on YouTube of her talking about Coming to America, and she said how she originally auditioned for the role of Lisa McDowell, but didn't get it. And she made references of colorism. So that was something I kind of wanted to talk about and sort of get everyone's thought about that. So in the colorism discussion, I thought about what she said, and yeah, there's some validity to colorism in Hollywood, but also there's also a negative connotation in colorism in Hollywood as well. And that's usually the type of characters light-skinned women tend to play and dark-skinned women. So I'll give you a perfect example. Let's use the show The Different World. So in A Different World, the light-skinned women tend to be a little on the dizzy side, like Whitley. Even Denise Huxtable was kind of aloof a little bit. And then who else? And then even Freddie Brooks, who was like the I don't know what she was supposed to be on that show, but I know her father's Canadian, her father's white, and I guess her mother's black. But whatever character she was supposed to be, it was a little flowery to make best. And then when you went to the dark skinned characters on the show, the dark skinned characters tend to be the more serious ones and the more focused ones. And I just thought that was interesting how when you look at Hollywood roles, when you look at damsels or dainty type of women, they tend to have them as light-skinned women. And then this strong character, when it comes to women, tends to be like dark-skinned women. For example, Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. Aunt Viv, she was dark-skinned, and she had that strong personality on the show. And then when they changed the mother to Daphne Maxwell Reid, the essence of the character changed, and it wasn't quite the same after she came on. So I just wanted to, I mean, maybe I'm crazy with this thought there, but that was a kind of an impression that I got. So, I guess, Dawn, what do you think about what I'm saying? Is there any truth to that? Am I blowing smoke on my butt?
No, dude, there's so much truth to it. There's so much validity in what you're saying. And honestly, like, I think that Hollywood uses that dynamic to kind of, once again, put Black people against each other. And especially women, like, I feel that there's like a society agenda to make women hate other women all the time. And why not do that within the Black community? Why not break us down more, especially in America? I mean, you guys are victim of a lot of prejudice and racism, and it's that deep that it's in Hollywood and they're showing it through film. So I feel like that resonates with how slavery kind of was, where you had house slaves and you had field slaves, and once again the masters and that white agenda divided women that way. So in our psyche, I feel like that is still resonant, and I feel like that's why it's so personal to Black women all around the world, is that like we have been divided for so long and Hollywood is still perpetuating that image. And when it comes to like the roles, I feel that I definitely see that the light-skinned women are more like more dainty, more like queen-esque, more like the girlfriend or the wife, and then they kind of use more like aggressive, stronger, violent women as more darker skin. So it's just perpetuating a stigma, it's perpetuating an idea that is like very outdated. And I think that whatever happened with the Coming to America rule, I don't really know if it was because colorism, because I think nowadays people are getting a lot better. And women like Zendaya are speaking out about the privilege that she has when she's going to roles and she sees other Black women not getting the role because they're darker than her. And now we see Lupita, and now we see Viola Davis kind of coming forward as like strong dark women who are doing a bunch of different roles. So it's definitely changing, but not fast enough.
All right, Jim.
I agree there's some validity to that, and including you as well with the colorism in films. It goes beyond films, even music and stuff like that. The way they're mostly portrayed and put forth, and how they're dressed up, and even with pictures, the way they're touched up, glossed up. So I do believe that there is a colorism effect in America, even if they're dark. They can always touch up the color, make them look lighter than they already are, and things like that. What I thought about, and was, and this is, I won't say it's reverse colorism, but, when they made Zoe Saldana play Nina Simone, and she was lambasted for taking that role because they put a prosthetic nose and stuff like that on her, and it did not represent Nina Simone or what the Black woman was in essence during that time. And, I thought about it that way, but I think about the reverse way until that happened. And I realized more that is really a widespread effect that, they did a woman's life who was an activist and a strong woman. And they got a little more of appealing woman and made her up to be, like what a Black woman is. And I thought that was very offensive, that they would have went that far to do that. And they could just have plenty of talented Black women out right now who could have done it. And to me, that was really more glaring and alarming now. Back then, I didn't really think about colorism like that. As when Coming to America first came out, I was just a kid, so I didn't really think about it until down in the future. And it was funny how she applied for the role of Lisa, and the sister was dark skinned, which was kind of like, I understand the dynamics of genetics and stuff like that, but I just thought, when you just say that the sister was dark skinned, the father was dark skinned, you didn't see what the wife looked like, but Lisa turned out totally different. Right. So it's, to me, it was like, all right, now you look at it, it was something weird. I found out later that Eddie Murphy and Arsenio Hall also had creative differences, issues with the director at the time. I'm not sure who it was. I forgot his name, but he caused a lot of stress.
John Landis was the director.
He caused a lot of stress upon the set for everyone. So I'm not sure if it was him involving with the casting decision and stuff like that. But, when these true Hollywood stories come to light about movies and how they were made or what difficulties were done, you find out about, all these things behind the scenes on the set. And, she probably definitely does have a point from what I read. And it's just something that Hollywood, I think Hollywood has to get over, mainstream Hollywood. The people are already ready for it. You know, they clamor for it, but they're still stuck with either one, whitewashing, or two, trying to make the roles, you know, seem more stereotype casting, which I hate the most in that sort of way. And you know, certain, you know, it does happen to certain Hollywood actors, actresses that they're stereotyped for certain roles. And that's one of the main causes of it, is that type of ideology that's still being used today. So, you know, I do agree that, you know, I'm not, you know, personally, I'm not sure what happened to her, but I don't think it's that far-fetched that happened to her.
Yeah, you know, I think the story was the studio producing Coming to America wanted a white person in the movie because they said there was too many black people in the cast.
What?
And
What?
that's how they came up with Louis Anderson, his character, the guy that's in McDonald's, and he says, I'm washing lettuce and soon I'll be on fries. So
But
they
wasn't the guy at the barbershop good enough?
well, well, there were
I'm the
actually
first guy.
three white people. Well, four white people in the movie. There was the woman at the Western Union or whatever that was when where they were trying to get the money. You had the lady that's like, "Go ahead, honey, take a chance." That lady, and then you had Jake Steinfeld, who was the cab driver. So I don't
You
know.
have two brothers, Don and Michi, man. They had
Oh
Don
yeah,
and
those two.
yeah,
Yeah,
come on.
that's true. I forgot about them.
Please.
Yeah, Don Amici, and I forget what the other guys.
Yeah, but those two are legendary.
Yeah, from Trading Places, which I thought was interesting in itself because in the Coming to America universe, Eddie Murphy exists twice as Akeem and
Billy Ray
Billy Ray Valentine was his character in Trading Places. So they technically exist in the same world.
Ooh, cool crossover.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So, all right, Don. So I wanted to say something before I go to Donnie, because I wanted to talk about colorism because it's such a worldwide phenomenon.
Yes. And I also have something to say too after.
And I remember going to a Haitian party one time at a restaurant, and we were all sitting at the table. Now, I'm not Haitian at all. So I'm just there having a good time. I'm not paying for anything. And so the wait staff came up. They wanted to talk to someone at the table, but instead of asking who is the person in charge, they came to me and started talking to me like I was the person in charge. Now, you may not think anything of it on when you at first glance, but the truth was I was the lightest person there. And I do know there's colorism in Haitian culture where the light-skinned people in Haiti are supposed to be the privileged class. And that is often true, not 100%. But if you go to Haiti, you'll find the fairest skinned Haitians there. They're very well educated, speak many languages outside of English and French Creole. And they often lived in well-to-do areas. So that was an experience that I had in terms of course, in my culture, I'm dark-skinned. I'm not light-skinned at all. I'm like in the middle between light and dark because in Puerto Rico, there's definitely lots of dark-skinned people there, but there's way more white people in Puerto Rico. And then you have the in-betweens like myself who are clearly from mixed descendants. All right. So Donnie, I'm going to toss it over to you, and then Dawn, I'll hit you back.
Nice.
Oh, fair enough. This actually made me think of other cases where you see something like that. I think you see in mainstream Hollywood, they go for like their safety casting sometimes, for lack of a better word. Like obviously with who they casted for the Queen of Coming to America, but I'm thinking of if you guys ever heard of that, there was that Gandhi movie back in like the 80s or whatever it was.
Yeah, with Ben Kingsley.
And they casted Ben Kingsley, an Englishman who's physically, you can see that he's white, but he had some Indian heritage or whatever. So that was like their safety thing there, that they had somewhat of a descendant of the Indian race. Or like if you look even more recent than that, right? If you see, obviously you're able to have movies like Black Panther, but that movie was made with the intentions of centering around Black people. Whereas when you look over to something else, made by the same people, like that last Thor movie, the person of color that they had in there was Tessa Thompson, and she was incredibly light skinned. I feel like and even in the Black Panther movie, they still had that CIA guy from America. So they still had a white main character going in it. I feel like there's like a certain like line that Hollywood won't cross with showing ethnic people. I feel like if it's not a movie centered on them, they try to go steer away from them as much as they can. It seems that's what it seems like.
Okay, I can see that. Definitely. All right, Dawn, I want to get back to you because you seem ready.
I totally, yes, ready. Because I experience this a lot. And I think that it's something that is like across all cultures. Like we see colorism in Asian culture, we see colorism in Indian culture, where the darker your skin, the lesser your class. And that's just based on the fact that you're working outside, you're working in a field. So if you're lighter skinned, then you're inside, you're in an office, you know what I mean? So it's just such a weird concept for us to put our head around, because it really doesn't make any sense. Like the color of your skin, dark or light, really doesn't change who the heck you are or your talents. So it's just unfortunate that we have these systems that still do that. And I think that it's unfair for Hollywood to like whitewash the truth of like our people and our culture. And I really don't know why they tend to like do that, but I just wanted to share like an anecdote of a personal experience that I had with colorism, because people assume that I'm a certain way because I'm light skinned. So they see these images of other light skinned women, and then they assume that I, have this narcissistic tendency to think that I'm better. And I remember one time I was in Toronto, downtown Toronto. I was like 18 years old. And it was like my first time going out, exploring the world. And I had these girls across the street wanting to fight me. And they were extremely mad. I had no idea why. I was just with my other friend. She's a white girl. And we were just walking into McDonald's. And then they said something that really stuck with me my whole life. And they were like, oh, you think you're better than us because you're light skinned. And that was like the first time I've ever heard that. And I was like, no way. And so, it's unfortunate that we are so divided, like within our own community, where it's like, you see somebody like me, and you instantly think of self-hatred, or you want to attack me. And that was like a huge lesson for me. And it just kind of showed me that the world is different for different people. And that stuck with me forever. So I thought that would fit with, what we're talking about.
Yeah, definitely. And also, we can't forget that they had Moses and Jesus as non-white characters.
Oh, and Gods of Egypt. You remember that movie that came out? Oh, it was all white people. Yeah. I didn't even watch it.
Yeah, so it's interesting. Yeah.
It's ridiculous, but it's just hire Black people. Just like, who cares? Like dark, light, whatever.
Yeah, definitely.
And the one Black guy in it was the one who played Black Panther. Like, really?
It's kind of a slap in the face, It's like disrespectful at this point.
Right. That is true. Yeah, so I just kind of want to talk about that real quick because it was on my mind and I didn't want to let it slip by. All right, so let me just go on to the show here and then go on to our relationship topic, which today's topic I consider the Star Strangled banner. And that's basically red flags in relationships, which there are, for many people, lots of flags. Now, what are we talking about, red flags? Of course, most of you pretty much understand it. But in case we have someone that came off the UFO and found our channel on YouTube or Anchor or wherever they're listening on, red flags are no-nos in relationships, things that open your eyes and make you aware to something can be wrong or should open your eyes, because a lot of times people ignore the red flags and keep it moving without addressing the issue, acknowledging it, weighing the merits of the person that has the red flags or whatever else might need to be done in a relationship. So the first thing that I want to talk about are red flags. So red flags, I'll get into some of the red flags later on, but I wanted to talk about the red flags up front and talk about what that should mean to people getting in relationships, and then I'll pass it on down the line and stuff like that. So when you meet someone, I mean, I'm not saying that you should be suspicious of people when you meet them, but what should happen is you should be able to pay attention to when you meet someone. Um, Also, when you are getting to know them, ask them questions that will enable you to be able to understand what they're about, because there's nothing worse than you getting to know someone without getting to know them. And I'll kind of leave it at that point, and then I'll go over to you, Dawn, and then we'll go back to the different red flags.
Okay. So do you want to just talk, like, do you want me to kind of talk about my red flags, or you just kind of want to like get into that, or should I just?
So yeah, you can definitely start off with your red flags, and then I'll go into mine when it comes back around.
Okay. Well, yeah, I think it's important to like be observant of the person you're dating. Some people tend to just like look at the superficial, materialistic outside view, but like we've talked before in like the first podcast, it's all about the inside. So for me, a couple of red flags I got are, I think the first one, like after I'm starting to get to know you, is if you don't have any real ambition, or if you don't feel that there's a purpose for yourself or your life, I think that's really important, because that aligns with my goals. I definitely have a lot of ambition, and I really need to find somebody who has their own and also understands like my mindset and wants to push me to reach mine. So I think that's important. I think that love bombing at first, like just saying the love word too soon, or just like being too emotionally codependent, I think is pretty damaging in the end. And I've seen that with a lot of my relationships, is that at first, they're giving me all this love and attention and like saying everything I want to hear, but that's the facade. That's not really you. That's just you trying to coerce me into falling for you, which is kind of manipulative if you think about it. And you don't really, and then once their true colors show, it's like a disaster, right? Because you thought that this person cared about you, whatever. So love bombing is a big one for me too. And I guess bad communication. If you can't talk to me, like if you can't even just be honest, or reciprocate the energy I'm giving you, like if you're not messaging me once a day, or I mean, it's not even about how much you're messaging me, it's about the actual communication and how we're talking, and how you are letting me know that you're interested, and letting me know how you function as a person. So if you're not talking to me for like days on end, and then you want to meet up, or you just are only talking about yourself, or you don't even ask about like my dreams or my family, and all that kind of just is a huge flag for me. So those would be my kind of three.
All right, so I guess we can start talking about that. So Jim,
Sorry.
so she mentioned first ambition. So I wanted to sort of further discuss about ambition. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Me, yeah. Ambition. Yeah, I really do. Some relationships, people become too complacent with certain way things are. They just don't like to move off of it. People, a lot of individuals I see get very comfortable, and they don't push themselves or each other to do something beyond of what they have now. To me, the purpose of a relationship is to start where you are now and to get to a higher plane of a finish line of where you want to be. And most relationships I see don't really end up like that. They don't really act like that. It's weird. It's just like they get together, don't know how it happened, and then they just like do stuck on a same mode. Take pictures, post Instagram, tell them they love each other, do a few activities, and then a couple of months later they unfollow each other like some big scandal. is happening. So it's like, it's like that's like the cycle I see now, and it's like, you guys didn't do nothing, no progression, no growth.
Yeah, lame.
Yeah, it's like, it's like
lame.
like what y'all doing? And it's like a bad cycle because most people don't grow out of it. And then, by the time they try to, it's too late, or the adjustment of lifestyle just becomes too unbearable and they just go back to the same old default. But yes, ambition is very important to people who want to do something, and A, have the support of the other individual, and B, for them to be an inspiration for them to continue to do what they want to do.
That's
and
it.
and being what they want to be, and to reach that finish line of where they want to go. And if you can't feed off each other on that, it's like, why, I don't say why are you here, but it's like, what are we doing? It's a dead end street, dead end sign. Turn around, and you don't even want to turn around. You just go straight to the dead end. So that's how I feel. And I'll pass it on to Donnie.
All right, Donnie. So what do you got there?
Come on, Donnie.
I think the point about the relationships are supposed to propel you forward. I think that's very important here. I think when you get into a relationship and one or both, I suppose that could happen too, of the partners lack ambition, I think what's most likely going to happen, if it's just one of them, the other one's going to start to feed off of that energy, and they themselves might begin to turn away from their own ambition. Even though maybe it shouldn't or should happen. I don't have an opinion on it, but when you get in a relationship with someone, inevitably they're going to impact you in a certain way. You're going to either become more like them, take on some of their behavior, whatever it is. And when you just have a constant drag like that, like someone who doesn't want to do anything, it kind of dissuades you from following what you might want to do. It encourages you to be lazy because, or I shouldn't say lazy, but it encourages you to kind of be complacent, as Jim said, because, well, we're very simple as people. It's like monkey see, monkey do, as they always say, right? And I think just if you're going to go into a relationship and you don't have that, it's a little selfish to put that on someone else, because that's going to hold them back ultimately. Since when you, once again, when you are in a relationship, you are one unit at that point. Both people have to be pushing forward for it to work.
Yeah, I wanted to jump in and talk about ambition, because ambition also, you can't require somebody to be ambitious and you're not ambitious yourself. So along with ambitious, there has to be a fair level of expectation. Like, you can't say, I want the person that I get involved with to, let's say, be a CEO, and you're working at McDonald's or Burger King. So that doesn't work out if your expectation of someone to be ambitious is great, and then yours is not that great. Because now what happens when a person looks at you and says, where's your ambition? So I think with ambition, there has to be equity in the two individuals that are getting involved. So you can't require something of someone and you're not that person yourself, because so many people do it. So many people say, I want this person to be this way and that way, and then they're not that way. For a perfect example, I'm going to go back to, just because there's such a lot of references to Kevin Samuels, but on his show, a lot of women call and they're like, I want to be attracted to him. I would want him to make a lot of money. I want him to accept my kids that I had from a bunch of guys. And I want him to accept me for who I am. And then Kevin tells them, well, here's the thing. You want a guy to be all those things, but why should he want you? What do you have? And then the women will say something like, well, I'm educated, I have a good job. But he says, you don't have kids. I mean, but they don't have kids. Not that the man doesn't have kids. So You want them to accept, but you're not the same way. Or you're making $100,000 and you want the guy to make $500,000, and then you want him to take care of you. So it's like with ambition, you have to be realistic in your requirements. So although that's not ambition per se, but that the expectations are not equal in terms of who you are versus what you want in a person. So like I said, when it comes to ambition, you have to have ambitions too. You can't be at the bottom of the ladder and want someone at the top and then be shocked if the person says, I'm not interested in you. So whatever you require for somebody, for anything, whether it's communication, looks, you have to be equal or understanding that the same way you require of someone, they may require of you in return, and it may not work in your favor. So that's kind of what I wanted to put out in the universe. So I wanted to go to the second point that you had, and then I guess I'll go next, and then Jim can go, and then Donnie. Hold on one second.
Mhm.
So I wanted to talk about love bombing. So yeah.
You want me to elaborate, or do you guys want to kind of talk about that?
Yeah, you can elaborate about it, and then we can get into it.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I guess I'll just use an example of like somebody that I was dating last year. We only dated for 2 weeks because he was love bombing me like crazy for the first couple days, and then I fell for it. And then once I actually got to know him, once he had me, wasn't the same person, didn't really show any interest, you know? And I think just like what you were saying about the ambition, like you need to be equalist. Like, you know, you need to see that person for who they are and actually know that they, you know, are compatible with you. And if you're lying to me at the beginning, then you're going to lie to me the whole relationship. And obviously you don't love me in the first 3 days. So that was just kind of why I thought about that. Cause I thought that it was, it's a lot more common, but yeah, that's kind of all I have to say for that.
So are you saying there was no love from your side? Is that what you're
I mean, like it's lust, right? And at first I'm like, wow, yeah, like we're talking every day, you know, we're talking for 4 days straight. Like maybe I do love this person. Maybe it's like a soulmate and a twin flame, but no, reality hits, you know, love isn't like that. Love is a long period of understanding and knowing somebody. And just like ambition, I don't care if, you know, you're working at McDonald's and I'm a CEO. Like if I see that you want to be a CEO too and we connect, I will support you and help you because I genuinely do care. So if you genuinely care about people, it will happen naturally. But it was just lust. It was all fake. That's why I ended in 2 weeks. I was like, this is not for me. This is not real. So yeah. Have you guys ever had like that experience too?
Oh,
or?
sure, of course.
Yeah.
All the time. You know, you have women come up to you and say things like, oh, well, I'll get into that later.
Go off. Why not?
No. I don't want to get off topic. I want to kind of stay on the topic there. Yeah, definitely. You know, you have some people who definitely lay it on strong and thick. And then when it's time to put application to advertising, there isn't any. It's like saying, oh, try this burger. It's the greatest burger you'll eat. And then okay, it looks pretty good in a commercial. Let me go and eat it. And then you go to eat it and it's just disgusting. Throw it out. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of like that. So there's advertising and then there's, you know, the action behind it. And then you'll find a lot of times there's no real action behind the advertising. All right, Jen. So she talked about the love bombing. Have you ever experienced that? What do you have?
I'll tell you this for sure. No, I have not experienced it. Like I always say, my communication level was low when I was younger. My priorities were, like I always say, this is all over the place. That's why I say it. My experiences are a little bit different, but I can see where she's coming from with that because I've seen women and men's attitudes change from love bombing. You know, it's like, you know, who this guy and or who's this girl? and their perceptions change, and it just something seems off about them from their normal routine, and it's because of this. And it's like, okay, and then it's exactly what Dawn said. Like a month later, 2 months later, his attitude changed back. They're back to normal, and I'm like, all right, yo, so you're back to normal now. So what happened to you? So I let them do the catch up of when their head was in the clouds. And they told me, oh, I thought this person liked me. They talked a whole bunch of stuff. It sounded good, and I'm the I won't say I'm the negative Nancy, but I'm more of the realist. So that's why they don't tell me until after their heads are away from the clouds. And I was like, if you told me that, I would have told you they're full of crap. And she's like, yeah, I know, but I didn't want to hear at the time because they wanted the relationship to work out. And it's just funny how, some people could see it, but they just don't want to move past it. And some people, think, that's how it is. And, it is, I do agree with Dawn on one thing. It's lust. Some of it could be, I don't want to say desperation. Some people haven't been in relationships for a while. They see a person, they connect, and they want it to work out so much that they'll go along with anything. I don't, but I know some people who have done that and it didn't work out because of the intention of that type of thing was there. I won't say it's difficult, but when you've been alone or when you're really looking for something and you think you found it in a person, and sometimes you don't want to discard and go back out again, you'll do things to keep attached to that person. And sometimes it's just, if you wake up in time, it just doesn't work out. So some people go through the motions. But yeah, I definitely see that happening. Definitely.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Donnie. So it's your turn. What do you think?
I've been around this type of situation a couple of times before. I think there's usually one of two routes for someone doing love bombing. I've found it seems like it's either, at least in my own experience, is what I've seen. There could be other reasons, but these are the ones I found. It seems like there's a big trend of people who just are big fans of attention. Like they don't really care for the relationship, but they do like the attention that a relationship gives them. That's why you see a lot of people who do love bombing. They like text all day, every day, or whatever else. They just like how that feels. I was in one of those, but that was a long time ago. And the other one I've seen was that it's not even about the attention. There are these people who like the chase part of a relationship, that beginning part where you have to earn their affections. They just really like that. So they get some sort of gratification on that. So they just keep doing it, but can't go past that because there's no interest in what comes afterwards. I found that those are the two biggest reasons for love bombing. And they're both, whether or not they most likely are, but whether or not they intend it, they're manipulative.
Mm-hmm.
Because yeah, oftentimes, like Jim said, there are people who haven't been in a relationship in a while, or maybe they never have in general, or they could be vulnerable for whatever reason. And when actually, a big issue that a lot of people are having is a lot of people are, I don't know what the term is. It's something like touch starved or whatever it is. You have a lot of people who never grew up getting attention, whether it be physical or verbal or whatever. And thus, whenever it comes from any source, they will leech or latch onto that as strongly as they can because it's new and they were missing it. So it's never a good situation to get into. It's always someone's being played and someone's getting hurt off of that because obviously it's just their ingenuine feelings anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah, I could definitely see that. So I wanted to get back to communication later because I feel that's probably something we should talk about later than sooner. Because I wanted to bring up something, and that is what did I want to bring up? Okay, I spent so much time talking in my mind. Now it's time for me to talk. I got performance anxiety. But anyway, I wanted to, oh yeah, I got it. I wanted to talk about when you have these things of love bombing. Another issue is when people say too many things, right? So you have people talking a lot and not listening. So in that love bombing, when you have people talking, some people communicate too much and not really listening to what you have to say. So in that love bombing, that you want to look at people and you want to say, okay, I'm hearing everything this person's saying, but what are they allowing me to say back? So in that love bomb, so whether it's lust or infatuation or loneliness or desperation, you always got to think about the way the person is saying that they feel about you is they should allow you to reciprocate some sort of sentiment on your side. So it's one thing for someone to read you poetry and haiku and sonnets and all of those things, but it's another for them not to hear anything you have to say and not regard or want to hear anything you have to say, because that's, if you got involved with someone like that, that's a great indication that your street is pretty much going to be one way. And back to what I think Donnie was saying with manipulation involved. So when somebody is love bombing you, then and they're not giving you the opportunity to grow in your feelings, you'll find yourself in conflict with that person, because then they're going to try to dictate how the feelings should be, because they're only giving it with one way. They're not asking for what you have to give back in return, or even being patient in what you may have to say. Because a lot of times when people love bomb you, what they do is they get frustrated with you if you don't feel the same right away. And then they start flipping out. Oh, what's the problem with me? Oh, and then they try to find something wrong with you, try to guilt trip you into feeling the way that they feel, or pressure you or criticize you and things like that. And so that's kind of what I wanted to address in terms of the love bombing. So I wanted to talk about something else in relationships, because I wanted the back communication is sort of something I want to talk at the end. So we're gonna revisit that. I wrote it down so that we don't lose our place. All right. So Jim, you have any red flags for us?
Red flags. I do. From my standpoint, especially dating. If a woman gives off masculine energy, and this is a very big red flag for me. This is one of the things I do not tolerate. I will, if I even get a hint of that, I will probably, thank you for your time. I'll probably talk to you for a little bit and then I'll ghost you. I'll definitely do that. I'm sorry to say just like that. I'll definitely do that if a woman gives off too much masculine vibes. And what I mean by masculine vibes, if I feel like you're being too much of a guy, sometimes your ambition could get in that way. Sometimes your dominating attitude, doing things that, mostly guys would do. I don't like a woman who's too competitive. What are you competing for? That's a guy thing, and we don't even do that like that much for like life stuff. We do it jokingly, trash talk on the court, things like that. But some women just take it to the next level. And I'm just like, oh, you're too much like a dude. I'm not rocking with you like that. Some, if I like see like, you're like too, your mannerisms, your speech, your dress, if it's too much like guyish, now if I see you coming with Tim's and a fitted, you gotta go, you could get a fitted, but no rough guy Tim's, it's like, some guys like, feminine, you want me to be feminine, and most guys do like that. I ask a lot of guys that, and they really do, and it's like, you see getting that male energy, that masculine energy off a female, that's a very big red flag. It's a very big turn off. What else is there? emotional vampires. What I call them that, Jonathan, what you were talking about before. Emotional vampires. I don't like women that say good vibes only, please. I mean, it's like, what do you mean by that? You know, it's like, you know, you only could give off good vibes. I'm like, so what are you giving off? And to me, that's like an emotional vampire. They feed off of what the positivity that you give, and then they don't reciprocate that back. Like I was always say, before they reciprocate it back, it's like their requirements is just too much of a one way. And I just feel like they're sucking their requirements that they're requiring, they're sucking it out of you for their own support, for their own, you know, needs and things like that. That's why I call them vampires, because it's just like, it just sucking, like taking it from you, like a, you know, like a leech. And I have been a part of that. I haven't been in a relationship like that, thank goodness, but I've seen other men have done it, and it's very contagious, because when you're around them, they leech off of your friends too. It's like you can feel it, and it's like, dude, like, you sure that's the person for you? And then, you know, you start questioning that. You know, sometimes, you know, I used to wonder why some guys will question women, you know, because I was too young. I never have this type of perception. And when you see it like happening, and you actually sometimes feel it, it's like, I can understand why some guys try to look out, or even some girls with some men, you know, they feel off the I won't say the emotion, but, you know, like their spirit. Some men do feed off of women's spirit, and, you know, try to drag them down. And it's like, you don't feel that. It's like, maybe I'm just too sensitive or attuned, but sometimes I feel it, and it's not a good feeling. But I want to ask Donnie and Dawn questions about when they went through the love bombing. What made you realize what's happening, and were you the ones to initiate you cutting off the contact or leaving?
Mm-hmm.
Was that both of you guys? Like, did you guys initiate the you know, fall? Did you guys did the falling back, or was it the other person? And when did you realize it wasn't the type of relationship you thought it was? Because, you know, different perspectives from different people on those type of things is really helpful to know.
Mm-hmm. Do you want to go, Donovan?
Sure. Sure. I got mine already on the top of my head. Oh yeah. So when people are love bombing, usually that's not really how they are as a person, right? So the point for me that I figured out that it wasn't what I thought it was when the actual personality would slip through. I tell this story I told stories to a couple people. This was a big one for me. This girl said to me, after kissing me, she then told me that she felt nothing. And I was like, what? I didn't know how to respond to that, because how do you carry forward after that, right? But I heard that, and I was like, okay. And she said that to me right before I had to leave, because I had somewhere else to be. So then I just had to go on the train with that, and I was like,
oh my
that
God.
wasn't normal. That wasn't. And then later on, she would try to like hike it back a little bit, like recover. I'm like, you can't. So when I started seeing slips of like how the person actually was, that's when I did start separating. Like, I started asking people advice, how they thought I should do it, because it was a weird situation in its entirety. But yeah. Once I started seeing something weird, that's when I set back.
Gotcha. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah, I haven't had anybody do something like that to me. Yeah. But that's horrible. But I was one who fell back, you know, like I'm a very observant person. And so once I started spending real time with him, not just like texting and calling, I started to realize that he, you know, wasn't the same person. And he genuinely didn't really care about you know, who I was, or getting to know me. And the other thing that was kind of the ticking point was that he didn't respect my emotional and like sexual boundaries. And to me, that's like a huge red flag, because emotionally, I'm telling you that I'm not, you know, ready to go on trips and to get married and to like do all this stuff. And also sexually, I'm telling you, I'm not comfortable to move forward. You know, just, if you really care about me, respect that boundary. But with the love bombing, he just wanted somebody to have around, just to say that he had a girlfriend. And that's when I started to like realize, okay, I'm not just going to be a toy in your life. Like, I'm somebody who has feelings, and I want somebody who can understand me and care about me. So yeah, so then I started to push back and pull back, and then he started, saying all this stuff like, oh, I love you forever, like, I'm never gonna get over you. And it's like, you don't know me, you don't love me, like, why are you lying? So that's that was my situation. It was annoying.
All right, thank you for sharing.
Oh, wait,
Yeah.
real quick. Yeah, you actually just made me think of something. Yeah, they do often push boundaries. It does feel like they're like trying to hit, like, they don't want to be in a relationship, but they want to hit like some of the milestones that come with a relationship. So they just kind of rush you to doing various things. I did notice that. I noticed that especially in that relationship I was just talking about, because it was my first ever relationship. And she would push me to do things like I wasn't comfortable for like some of the sexual things that she had wanted to do, and she definitely didn't want to do them with me. I think she just wanted to do them just in general, and it just was I took the bait. So I think that it's just easy enough to get there when they've already taken the bait like that.
Yeah, and when you're young, you know what I mean? Like, it's exciting to explore yourself sexually and stuff. And, you assume if somebody wants to do that stuff with you that they care. But at the end of the day, it's like you said, it's a milestone. It's like them just trying to reach a goal and say things to their family or show a picture. And it's like, I'm a human. Like, what the heck? You're going to use me like that? But yeah, I'm glad that I opened your eyes to that, because the emotional boundary is huge. If somebody's pushing you too far, too soon, they don't care. They really don't care. I think, personally.
Well, I'm not certainly endorsing
maybe,
underage kids having
but...
sex now. It's illegal in some places.
True.
So remember that, young people. Wait you know what I mean. Wait until you can't get into trouble.
Yes.
And definitely no underage sexting, sending new photos, because that's illegal in many places too.
I do not endorse that at all either.
Yeah.
No.
Just to be clear, as Obama would say, let me be clear.
Yeah.
Yeah, very important, young people. I don't want anyone saying, well, Jonathan St. James, said go have sex.
No, we don't endorse
right. Two young people.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Well, thank you for sharing. I appreciate it. I really do.
Now, see, you threw the natural out of order there, Jim, because now we're so behind in getting the responses from Dawn and Don.
No, I got my notes.
Okay. Yeah, but quite a bit of time has passed. All right.
We could always go on to the next set.
No. Because I wanted to talk about well, you know what? I won't touch the masculine energy, because that's kind of
I'd like to touch
it's like
all right then, Don. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Is it okay? Like, Don,
go ahead.
you want to say anything too? Okay, well.
No, Don needs
go ahead. No, go ahead.
All right. Well, being I would say a sort of not more, but okay, let's just go back. Okay, so I love what you said. I think that it's really real that you are honest about that feminine energy, because that's something that I had to learn the hard way. Growing up as like a Black woman, I feel like we have to try to be hard and strong, and that's just our defense mechanism. And so throughout my dating experience with men, I tended to be super like dominant, and I tended to be really independent. And I didn't realize that men want to nurture their girlfriend. They want to protect them. They want to, like feel the protector. It's something that is about the balance of feminine energy and masculine energy. So now that I'm older, and last year and the year before, like I really took my time to kind of understand that dynamic, and I'm kind of growing into that femininity more and letting go of that control and aggressiveness and da-da-da-da. However, I do find that we just naturally have both. And I think that it's like I personally believe that it's okay if women are competitive and dominant and aggressive and powerful, because that is how we move forward. And that's how we, change the outlook and change the stigma around, what women's roles are, and, how we should act, and, how we should be, and, stuff. So I feel that being competitive and powerful and dominating is just a human thing. And I feel that men also have emotional, sensitive sides to them as well. And I actually love that. I love a man that is actually really sensitive and in tune with himself, because it shows that he is complex. But that's just my way of thinking. In Native history, in Native spirituality, there's something called two-spirit. So that's kind of like a gender and identity, where you don't identify as, like I'm a girl, but I feel like I have Mars, the planet of Mars, the masculine energy, and I also have Venus in me. So that's kind of interesting that you said that. I think it might be like a generational taboo stigma thing, but yeah, that's it. Yeah.
All right. So now my question is, so how does masculine energy balance into a meaningful relationship? How does that work?
Well, I find that, like, if you need something from the relationship, take that power into expressing that to that person. Don't be codependent. That masculine energy is strength in my eyes. It's like the courage, the bravery, the security and stability. So feminine energy is more, loving, nurturing, kind, understanding, emotional intelligence. But you sometimes have to switch in a relationship. You can't let somebody walk all over you. You can't just be a doormat. So that's where I think the masculine energy comes into play with people.
But that's in a toxic relationship. If you have a healthy relationship, there shouldn't be a fear of someone walking over you. So that's an imbalance. Not. But I'm just saying, in a balanced relationship, how does masculinity work in a balanced relationship? If I'm fair to you, when do you need to use masculine energy to me? If I'm being fair to you, if I'm not trying to walk over you or take advantage of you, I respect your opinion. I'm not forcing you to do things you don't want to do. So from a female perspective, where does that benefit a relationship, masculine energy, in your opinion?
Well, I guess, okay, that's a really good point. Definitely was like looking at more toxic relationships, but I guess in a balanced relationship, it's the freedom to be who you are, and to know that your partner accepts you. And I feel like, I guess I can't really describe it because I've never had a healthy relationship where somebody has accepted my dominant ways and my masculine energy. So I can't really answer that fully, but I would assume it would just be acceptance, just understanding that sometimes I need to be the independent one. Sometimes I want to make you dinner. Sometimes I want to do stuff for you, and I want to spoil you. And, I want to be able to express myself maybe in the same way as you do when you love me.
So, in that instance, what you're talking about, that's going to be a very small amount of guys that's going to appreciate that. A masculine energy is definitely not beneficial to the average guy. So that's definitely, if you feel like you need to display that energy in a relationship.
It's not that I need to. It's just that it's who I am. So why don't I get the right? And
I might be a violent person, but that doesn't mean I'm just gonna smack people because that's me. So there are things who we are, but in a civilized world, there's things that we have to do to get along with other people. Like telling people off because you're open and honest all the time is not always the way to be, because that's who you are. So there's a thing in the world where we call subdue your passion, right? Because you have passion, but it's not always the right time and place to subdue it. Or as Dave Chappelle would say, when keeping it real goes wrong. So you can't always keep it real with people because it's not always the right environment to keep it real with people. Sometimes you got to know when it's like, okay, I want to call that person a MFer, but it's not appropriate. And then you just let it slide up your back. It's not saying that you're being not yourself, but sometimes you got to know where things apply and where to apply them. So that's the point that I'm trying to make.
For sure. And I
want to
that,
jump in too.
For sure, I just feel like I'm able to do both though. Like I have an extreme feminine side. You know, I'm not saying that I'm more masculine. I'm not saying it's great for women to be more masculine, because we are women and men are men. We need each other. We balance each other for different reasons. So I'm not saying that I want to overpower my man by being over masculine. That's not what I'm saying. Yeah, you can go ahead, Donovan.
I think I don't even think anyone disagrees here. My
Yeah,
takeaway
no,
from it is like that masculinity, the way that it's I guess exerted, but in a relationship sense, is vastly different from how it would be elsewhere, right? So like the masculinity outside a relationship, that's where that competitiveness and all the ambition and all that, that's where that would be. But going into a relationship, it's not a competition, right? So what the masculinity aspect really is, it's not the same. I don't know how to describe it, but it's just a woman being masculine in a relationship in general isn't going to mean her being like confrontational or wanting to argue all day or whatever. It's more so just going to be like being firm in your relationship or whatever, being sure that your relationship is strong, or being willing to fight for it, or or being open and communicating would be that, I guess.
Well,
it wouldn't be
wait, hold on. You might want to be careful with that, because that's not necessarily masculine or feminine. Because
no. Yeah.
No,
it's
but
not.
He's saying in the relationship.
Yeah, but people will construe that as masculine or feminine.
Yeah,
so you got to
They
understand.
would.
I don't misconstrue that.
You
Not
don't.
Not you personally.
But you must don't watch YouTube very often, because
I do. How dare you assume my? How dare you? No.
I will point you in a direction of people who call these shows of YouTube hosts that constantly and every single time will misconstrue everything that you say, no matter how honest that you're trying to be. It's just the nature of YouTube. Everyone misconstrues on that. When the ability to figure something out is present, people will always figure the wrong thing out, because that's just the nature of YouTube. People want to disagree with you. So they won't listen to what you have to say. They'll start off hearing what you say, and they'll disagree with you and argue with you, despite your points being valid or not. So that's what happens. And I can tell you, I watch every day. And like I said, I'll forward you the video so you can see where it's a logical discussion, but the YouTube people, they just want to disagree. So that's why you have to be very mindful when you say masculine and feminine energy, and using that in terms of how you view a relationship and the way that you perform in a relationship. Because to me, when a man says masculine energy, it's a difference than saying someone who is going to work hard at the relationship, because that's, to me, working hard at a relationship is not masculine or feminine. So when you're saying that a woman who works hard at a relationship is exerting masculine energy, then you will have women that say, oh, I'm offended by that, because that anybody can do that. That's not a man issue. Do you understand what I'm saying?
I do, but I feel like that goes the same with what Jim said about it's not like women can't be competitive. Why not? Why is that just a masculine thing?
What I think, so right. So Jim, you should clarify that. So
competitive in a relationship.
So you clarify that, Jim.
It's competitive in a relationship with your partner. That's all what that is. When you are in a relationship, that's what I say, when you're giving off masculine energy in a relationship with your partner, it should not be a competition. Like what you say, if you're like what you mentioned before, if you're a CEO and I'm working at Burger King, you should not view that as a competition. If you are being with me, we're talking about from a relationship standpoint. And as I said, I don't have, I get that vibe if I get that vibe from you in a relationship. That's why we said red flags. It's not really for what you're doing on the outside, but it's just what that person is giving off when you're in a relationship with them. So it's just basically.
But you did say that competitive women, like, you didn't make
okay. I see what's happening here. I think it's all about like the verbiage. It's just the words. I don't even think it's a matter of a woman acting like a man. It's really just improper behavior in a relationship, just in general. But for him, it's going to be acting like a man because he doesn't get in a relationship with men. Those are the people he's friends with. He's like, don't act that way towards me. Act in a way appropriate of a relationship. That's what it sounds like. And it's just because we're having gender terms tied to it. It's now taking on that kind of tone. Whereas what it's really supposed to be is don't treat the relationship like a competition. Don't come in like aggressive. Just talk to me. Don't act like we're against each other. It's more like that as opposed to don't act like another guy. That's what it seems like it's more related to.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Part of it is that way, but part of it is actually you acting like a dude. It's just what that is. I have been in relationships where the woman tries to, act like, if I'm with Jonathan, or with my older friend or my guy friends or with my friends' frat brothers. It's like that type of ideology or idea does not fly. It's like, it's what Dawn said earlier. We want to feel protected and stuff like that. And I see that she's trying to find her balance, which is fine. Is what Jonathan also said, situational type. When do you think that you should be allowed to use that if necessary? And I think that's part of the most disconnect is that it's not really a personal attack, but most of the time, you're trying to find your balance in that type of situation. Like say, if your husband say it's like, he gets sick, he's in the hospital, he can't do anything. That's a situational point where, a woman will have to take charge. And that's more, that's like, okay, my husband can't do it or my boyfriend can't do it because either A, he's incapacitated, B, he's not around, he's on a business trip or something like that. And it's type that situational. Some women, unfortunately, don't know how to turn it off because it's, as what Dawn said, it's in their nature, it's what they grew up with, or it's how they are viewed. It's like we said, that type of viewing in perception. That's why is Kiwi. That's why, because that girl outside McDonald's didn't like Dawn because that's her perception. But how do you find that balance? And that's why I say I don't like that, because that person has not found their balance of, this is a person they don't know. Why are you giving that off? What is your objective and what is your agenda in giving that off so early, or even that early in the relationship? Do they know that that's a turn off? And for most men, unfortunately, and it is. And I'm not lying here. It's not a big turn on. The time that it is a turn on for men, or even acceptable, is when they don't have balance within themselves and they think that type of behavior, because they've been around it, has been normalized. And that for me, that took me 15 years to realize that type of behavior I was receiving and is not normal. It's okay, what? It's okay, if when the needs arise, if there's a balance, of course somebody has to step in and take charge. I expect sometimes a woman to take charge in affairs I don't know nothing about. Like, I'll give you a perfect example. My niece just had her Sweet 16 party yesterday. You think I know how to plan a Sweet 16 party? You think most men know how to plan a Sweet 16 party? So you know what? They take charge. That's, what? And that's fine. That's the energy you give off. They give instructions. They're firm. They know what they want, designs, dress, everything. You know what? That's fine. Hey, have at you. But it's when to know to turn it off and on in those type of situations. And men do expect women to lead in those type of things, in those type of affairs, because you know what? I'm not saying it's gender, has to be gender based on roles, but you know what though? You guys are more familiar with those things, and the familiarity. And I'm not gonna play myself and be like, oh, I'm doing, and just mess the thing up. No, you have your particular ways. You have your ways that you want to do it. Have at it. But it's when to turn it off and on in a relationship. Where to find the balance of when to do it. In certain affairs, men will like to take the lead. Where to be. Mostly, and I'm trying to be so gender based, or so based on type of roles, but men are more familiar with cars, homes, construction, things like that. And sometimes the woman will like for the really for the men to take charge of those type of ideals, stuff like that, because they don't want to be tied down and trying to unlug a pipe, or take out an electrical outlet and put a new one in without getting shot. And it's like those type of things that you expect. But if the woman or if the man just keeps over domineering on those things, and for me, since I'm a guy, it's that type of ideal affected towards me, and that is what is given off. And so I'm saying, this is where things from a guy's perspective, you may think that you may not be too strong, or you may not, but to a guy that I won't say he's equipped, but is sure about what he feels in a relationship and things like that, it's not a big turn on to have that and sometimes it's overpowering. And then when you try to talk to them about it, you get a negative response because that's what they're used to, but they haven't found their balance. So for me, that's a red flag until you find your balance on when you can turn off and on a situational need arises. Because men can be a dominant force, but sometimes it's just like it's okay. They just lay back. They'll let women plan what they want. If they need help, they need assistance, they need a prop up, just come and ask us, and then we'll help you take over and assist you in providing strength behind it. But if, like I said, if I wanted that from a woman, I'll just go with my guys and they can help me put up stuff. It's not really what we would expect. And for that, it's like it's that type of thing. So with me, it's that you find your balance. If you are suitable at that time, then you could come, we could probably think something about. If not, you realize that you just, I won't say you will made a mistake, but you realize that it's not going to work out before anything becomes of it.
All right, let me interject here because we're running out of flags to talk about here. So.
Sorry.
Thank you guys for that also.
The point, so I think the moral of this discussion really is whatever your traits are as a man or a woman, when you meet someone, you're going to have to figure out the person you're interested in, what they're interested in, and what they'll accept, what they want from you, and what you want from them. You're going to have to hash it out, because as long as you're on opposite sides of the universe of what you're looking for in a relationship, it's not going to work. It may work in the interim, but long term, it's not going to work out when you just have two different philosophies, and I'm pushing mine and you're pushing yours, and it's just constantly clashing. So I wanted to move on. Donnie, did you have any flags?
Yeah, actually, you just mentioned something similar to my red flags. I'll just give it real quick then. Yeah, what my thing is when people don't know what I call their non-negotiables. It's the things that they can't like let go of, like when it comes to a relationship. So like, for example, for me, I can't be with someone who, like, when an issue is happening, their go-to is to do like silent treatment or just stop communicating or something. Like, you got to know what it is that you're willing to put up with and what you absolutely can't, because we're going to waste time trying to deal with, like, trying to adjust to those things, even though we know we can't at that point. That's my biggest red flag.
So I wanted to say something about that real fast, because even in friendship, I have a problem with that. And perfect example, I have a friend that every time there's a problem, is whether you're involved or not, it's like ghost. And so I refuse to deal with people like that. If you have a problem that's not even that serious, and your first impression is like, I'm going to ignore you, then you know what? Go ahead on with yourself. And I often just let people live in their own devices, because I don't have time for that. If you're in a relationship or you're friends with someone and they have a problem with you, silence. They have a problem with the world, silence. What kind of grown person does that? So definitely I understand where you're coming from, because I have no time for people like that, that every time there's an issue, whether it's with someone else or you, they ghost you. Like, I understand there's always going to be a need for a timeout, but it shouldn't be always the need for a timeout. If you're timing out someone all the time, then there's either a problem with that person, meaning me, or there's a problem with yourself. So either way, it's not working out, whether you're a friend or in a relationship with me, and you're ghosting me out all the time. It's just definitely, I can understand when you're talking about with non-negotiables, and that's definitely one of mine. So Dawn, I saw you kind of had a light bulb above your head there.
I think that's a really good point, and I believe that what you just talked about is like bad communication, and that is definitely a non-negotiable for me. Like, exactly, like don't ignore me because I'm trying to fix a problem. I'm trying to, like, understand how you work better, because I'm a very compromising person in any type of friendship or relationship. I accept people for who they are, and I know that we're going to be different. So all I ask from you is to just talk to me when there's something wrong. And if it's serious enough to the other person on the receiving end, they're going to want to talk to you and work it out. So yeah.
Oh, and real quick, not enough people understand that if they can't talk about something right now, they can also ask for that. Some people, instead of just saying, hey, can we table this until later? Or can we do this when I'm in a better whatever? They will just shut down immediately. And then that causes more problems because there's, once again, bad communication there.
Certainly.
Yeah, it's just like understand who you're it's like always goes down to understand who you're dating. You're gonna have to tailor, or not tailor, but you're gonna have to really accept them and know like what they need in order to feel fulfilled. So if they need some time, like they should feel safe enough to say, I can't talk to you right now. And you should respect that.
Jim?
Yeah. Listen, Jonathan, I'm gonna say this. I use our friendship as a test table for my relationship. We've known each other for 27 years. We outlasted most people's marriages. So for me, it's like, yo, when me and you have like a rapport that, even though like we done both basic things in life, we lost contact. We was able to pick up basically where we left off. If you always had a problem, we always come to, you will always freely be able to talk about, and it's about, but the familiarity with the person. So, I will expect that from a person I've known for 10 years, 7 years, 5 years, 3 years, a certain amount of time that I give you before I can't take your silent treatment because there's no familiarity with each other. I also do care. So if you table it, I am going to ask you about it in like weeks or months down the road. So don't act like don't tell me forget about it and then you expect me to accept that. No, you brought it up, you tabled it, I accepted it, but I will expect you to discuss it later. This is not something that's going to slip my mind or hoping you think is going to slip my mind. That's my attentiveness, and Jonathan will attest to it, that I bring up topics of conversation that people forgot and then they remember and they actually tell me because I am interested in about your life and what's going on. So I do accept the tabling, but up to a certain point. And I do accept, you being silent a little bit out of familiarity up to a certain point. But past, if we've been rocking for 2 years, 3 years, I expect for you to be open and honest and be able to tell me what's going on without saying, huffing and puffing and saying nothing. I expect that from my nephews, their kids. I expect it from kids. I don't expect it from adults, especially people I have a friendship with or a relationship with. I do not expect that after a certain amount of time. I don't.
All right, that's pretty good. Was that all your flags, Donnie?
Majority of my flags are around bad communication, and I believe we were going to do a larger thing on that or something like that.
Yeah, I think we kind of hit it just now.
Oh, okay. Yeah, something cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
so
we
that's why I
kind of
just left it at that one.
we
Yeah.
we kind of inadvertently discussed
Hmm.
it just now. So I guess I'm not going to bring too many flags into this because I think the one flag that I'm going to talk about will kind of encompass many flags, and basically that flag is going to be people who are very introverted about their flaws, no flaws. And there are a lot of people in this world that have things wrong with them, but they're not really honest about it. And I've had that experience with people in friendships, relationships. And when you deal with those kind of people, they'll tell you, oh, I'm just fine. I'll give you a perfect example. I remember talking to a friend of mine, and the discussion was about her family situation. And so she was telling me about her parents divorcing. So my question to her was, oh, your parents is divorced. Did you have any residual issues growing up with your parents divorcing? And she said no. And I looked at her sideways because I'm like, you're full of issues. And if you believe your parents separating and divorcing and your father not being there for you every day growing up is not a problem, then that worries me very much because that tells me you can't identify dysfunction. Because I can tell you for myself, my parents, they broke up about 12. I was 12. And that has followed me until 2021. And that's in the 80s. So that's many years ago. So you have people who will tell you nothing is wrong with them. They're perfect. There's something wrong with someone else. It's that person, it's that person, it's that person, and it's never you. And you know, so I don't know if people do that. There's different levels to that. There are people who do that because they're protecting themselves. They don't want to feel vulnerable to other people, so they won't reveal those things. And then there are people who really don't know, and they what they call fake it till you make it, and they sort of just deny until they actually believe that there's nothing wrong. So that's something I wanted to get a conversation about. And I think that'll be the last topic for today. Go on. You look like you
Alrighty.
wrote some stuff down.
Yeah, always, because I forget, right? Like I write it down so I can remember to go back because there's always so much going on in this damn brain. But I think you raise a really good point. I think that we tend to live behind our ego mask. We tend to, like you said, think we're perfect, especially in relationships. It's like, dude, they cheated on me. Like they didn't do this for me. They didn't do that for me. It's like, but what are you doing to not get it? Or what are you not doing for them to, initiate that reaction? There's always a reason behind people's actions. And I find that those flaws come down to your own self-acceptance and being mindful of who you are and your strengths and weaknesses. And just because you have weaknesses doesn't make you like bad or weak. It makes you a human. And the fact that you are able to be vulnerable and open up about those things and share with another human, that's where great relationships and great communication happen, I believe. And so I think, yeah, that's a really great point. And even if you're imperfect, that's fine. Be you, just own it, and be honest with yourself, because we all have things to fix. Like I went through an ego death last year where I straight up confronted every single thing that was going wrong in my life and every single thing that I felt was wrong with me. And I didn't have to do that. I could have just went my life blindly, just like assuming I'm this way, assuming I'm projecting whatever's in my head, but that's not the truth. So I had to dig and talk to other people and analyze and reflect on how my relationships, friendships have gone throughout the year. And you feel better for it. You notice when your flaws are coming up or when your weaknesses are happening, you notice to like stop those thoughts or to stop communicating that way or, stop acting jealous or possessive or whatever it is that you think that isn't healthy, it betters every other relationship. So I think that's very important to just notice your flaws and be honest with yourself about them, because you're not God, you know.
Jim?
The misconception of accept me as I am is flaws and all is kind of overused in that type of retrospect. Because you know why? It does not allow you for self-improvement. It
Well,
doesn't,
it
yes,
does though.
but
Okay,
you know
sorry.
what? Sometimes you're forcing the person to accept something that you don't have to approve upon, and then you say, yeah, well, this is how I am. You knew how I was, but
But that's not what I'm saying though. I'm saying
no,
for
not
your
you, no, not you, not you.
okay,
This is
sorry,
people in
sorry,
general. No,
sorry,
this is
sorry.
people in general. This not all my comments is general. It's not about you. No.
No, I know. Sorry,
Oh.
I thought you were literally
Nah.
rebutting
I
what.
wasn't rebutting. Nah,
Okay.
it's not about against you. Your own is different and unique because you confronted yourself.
That's
Always
what
know that difference. Yes, you confront yourself. Nobody didn't have to tell you that, and that's the difference in what I'm saying.
Well,
When
they
saying
told
you
me.
have to confront yourself. Some people don't confront themselves, and yet they have to realize that sometimes it takes that for you to and that's what I'm saying, approve of. That's how I'm gonna I'll expand upon what you said. It's the ability to know that and to expand upon what confront yourself and say, okay, what's wrong with me, what's failing, what's working. And once you do that once you do that for yourself, you can actually say, I can be honest in this relationship. This is how I am. I'm working on it. It's not about you have to feel that you have to be standing on posture or ceremony to be in a relationship. And to me, that sometimes that happens. People stand upon those type of things because they see that's how it's done. With other examples, TV, social media, things like that. Well, out here in the real world, where people come all shapes, sizes, colors, everything else, is not whitewashing Hollywood. That's why I throw that in there. It takes a unique set of differences, and you can accept, help improve upon it, and to help them out, your partner, with it as they are willing to receive that help in improving upon themselves. And at the same time, the person who's doing the helping can learn something about themselves as well. I also do believe that for me, my mask was shame and hiding out of things of shame and embarrassment. Every action I've done as when I was younger was out of shame and embarrassment. I didn't want certain things exposed about my life, my childhood, even about some of my family members. I had girls avoid meeting because it was out of shame and embarrassment. Every action, and Jonathan can tell you something, most of the action I took was out of that. And it took years to get over it. Years. It was a painful process, but I had to recognize why I did these things. And it was out of those too. It's sometimes other people have ego as out of ego. Sometimes it's out of survival necessity. You have to understand where you're coming from. And if you're honest with the person, you can tell them from a point of where you came from, and you'll get more understanding out of it, because it is difficult. Don't say everybody's human. It is difficult. It doesn't have to be from my type of beginnings, but people do things out of certain ideologies that happened to them as a child, and they took it with them. But the point is if it's okay to keep the ideology, if it's wrong, is it need correcting, things like that. So that's how I feel. And once you be able to confront that and tell another person, not as freely but with familiarity, and you're honest with them, it can be a beneficial event early in the relationship. So there's no no miscommunication, misunderstanding. They'll know where you're coming from, and the guys to help you correct it, or come up with ways to improve upon it, things like that. So it really is about more of an understanding type thing when you're first starting out, and it's good to be that open and I won't say committed, but acceptable of people coming from that way, because they're telling you out of humility and respect for the next person that they, might want to try to be with.
All right, let me get Donnie in here, and that'll be the last point of the evening.
Sure. I guess I'll speak to something that I had to deal with. When you're not honest with your own flaws, your relationship then becomes a fight, I guess. So if you go into a relationship and you're not honest about what's wrong with you, you are blocking yourself off from analyzing your own choices, your own actions. And then it becomes all about what the other person's doing. I personally lived through one of those. And I suppose it's very important for people to realize that having something wrong with you doesn't make you the bad person, or it doesn't make you the problem or whatever else. I think people are afraid to admit to things that are wrong with them because they think that'll make them lesser than they are. So I suppose if I'm going to be one of the last things, I guess I just stress that people not hold that kind of misconception. You only become the problem when you refuse to address what's wrong and grow from it. When you just write it off as being fine, not an issue, then you just stay whoever you were at the start. You stay whoever you are as a result of that pain or that whatever it was. So I guess I just stress that people try to avoid that sort of thinking.
That's definitely words to live by. So I think I'm gonna leave it there because we definitely spent a good time talking about certain things. I mean, I'm pretty sure there were more flags that we could have brought to the front, but I think they're probably the most important ones that we could discuss. So I just want to say thank you for all of those who are watching on YouTube, listening on Anchor, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and wherever else American Express is accepted. All right, folks, we'll talk to you next time.
Bye.
Later.
All right, take care.